I never thought I'd say this, but I'm absolutely terrified of my own fucking kid. Every parent understands how the world changes the day you bring home your newborn baby. How you're in the car and you just want to be in slow motion, but the world continues to whirl rapidly around you. You get angrier at irresponsible people, and your outlook shifts because you have this tiny human being that is counting on you to protect it. And it's not all about you anymore. How could it be? I know the feeling all too well, and have always been my son's #1 fan. Even if he sucked at his elementary school baseball games, I'd still watch him and praise him for every ounce of effort he put into it. I was proud of him, and just knew he'd grow up to be an amazing person. Then, out of the damn blue, something went wrong. My son's name is Mitchell. According to my fiance, we don't call him Mitch, and we won't until he develops a 5 o'clock shadow. About a week and a half ago, Mitchell started acting strange. He was closed off and quiet. Other than the average shy with strangers thing, Mitchell had always been a very outgoing kid, but he started to become reclusive, enjoying his time behind closed doors and far, far away from me and his mom. And no, I know what you're thinking. It's not that he's starting to hit puberty, this is something completely different. I was a young boy myself, so I'm more than aware of the change that he'll go through, but trust me, this isn't it. Sometimes, when I'm watching TV on the couch, I'll feel him behind me in the hallway staring. He'll just stand there and stare at me. Not moving, not speaking, nothing. I'll call out to him, "Everything okay, buddy?" And he'll wordlessly turn around and stalk back to his room. And I'm left there, dumbfounded and thinking to myself, what the fuck is wrong with my kid? Then it gets even weirder. He eats maybe 1 meal a day, and whenever I try to get him to eat more, his lip pulls into a snarl. His weight hasn't decreased, and he's not fatigued, so I have no idea how he can go so long without more food. Both his mom and I have tried to bribe him with food, but he's having none of it. It's like he knows our motives, and eating that ham and cheese sandwich is the last thing on earth he ever plans to do. I don't know why. Next, at night, when I'm having trouble sleeping, I can hear him roaming the halls. He'll walk slowly into the living room and then race back down the hall as quickly as he can. I used to get up and confront him, and he'd go back into his room, but come back out an hour later. I stopped confronting him after the night I opened the door to tell him to go to sleep, and he was sitting upright in his bed, staring at me. I'd just heard him running down the hall in the opposite direction. I have no clue how he got back into his room. I've spent too many hours trying to figure it out. Things got even creepier a few days ago. His teachers report nothing new, but he's not the same kid at home. He looks at me like I've just killed everything he's ever loved. He's not said one word to his mom, and he pretends she doesn't even exist. We got desperate and took him to the emergency room on Friday night, but that little shit perked right up, as if nothing was wrong. This morning, my fiancée, Mitchell's mother, calls me at work. "Honey, did you move the knives?" she'd asked. Why the fuck would I move the knives? No. Well, she paused. I'm trying to cook breakfast, and all the knives are gone. I can't find them anywhere. In case you're wondering where the knives went, she found them a few hours later. They were in Mitchell's closet, underneath his fucking carpet. Why? Why were they underneath his carpet in his closet? Again, I have no fucking idea. She'd noticed a large lump beneath the fabric while she was hanging up his laundry. Sure enough, there they were. I mentioned my son's behavior to my coworker, leaving out some of the more unbelievable details. He laughed, told me to get a grip, and told me to quit overanalyzing everything. According to him, he's just an angsty kid. Did I mention my son is 6 years old? Yeah. This evening, I came home from work, and my fiancée is sitting at the kitchen table in complete silence. Immediately, I knew something was off. She looked stressed and overwhelmed. The rims of her eyes were burning red, and puffy bags had developed beneath them. What's wrong? Heather? It's... She started but bit her lip, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill. It's what? I put my hand on her shoulder, feeling how tense it was. Is Mitchell okay? Heather stayed quiet, not looking at me. Heather, I asked him to stop screaming, she finally answered. That's all. What? I asked, and she started to sob, her whole body shaking. I was in there, she pointed to the living room, watching TV. Mitchell was in his room, with the door closed. He was just screaming. He didn't even stop to breathe. When I went in there, he was standing in front of the door like he was waiting for me, and just screaming, looking me in the eye, screaming as loud as he could. I swallowed, biting the inside of my cheek as I waited for her to continue. I asked him to stop screaming. And then? She didn't say anything, but her eyes moved over to focus on the hardwood floor in the hallway. In the wood, there were long, ragged, deep scratch marks. I let out a quivering breath and shook my head. I think I uttered a, "What in the," under my breath, but I don't remember. My mind was going 1,000 miles an hour at that point. He stopped screaming immediately and gave me the scariest, most unsettling smile I've ever seen. She paused, trying to stabilize her voice. He walked towards me, and something inside me told me to run. To run away from my own damn child. It was a primal fear, like instinctively my body knew I was in danger. I stepped back, away from him. It's okay, I assured her, but nodded to gesture for her to continue. We walked all the way down the hall, him coming towards me going backwards. When I reached the end of the hall, and my heel hit the back of the sofa, he stopped. Then he cocked his head to the side and asked, "What's wrong, Mama? Are you scared?" My body was covered in chills, and suddenly I felt sick. The way he said it was almost mocking, like this was a joke, or supposed to be funny. He even pouted out his lower lip. Before I could say anything, he dropped to all fours and, with his nails digging into the floor, crawled backwards back into his room. It was quiet between us while I tried to process the image in my head. My eyes glanced back over at the marks on the floor. His eyes never left mine, Heather whispered. After a few seconds, I realized that I couldn't just sit here and do nothing. Much to Heather's disapproval, I told her I was going to check in his room. She stayed in the kitchen. I walked slowly and cautiously towards Mitchell's room, noticing that the closer the scratch marks got to his door, the bloodier the floor became. My stomach lurched because you never want to see the aftermath of your child's pain. Then, at the same time, I couldn't help but think that this was not my child. There's no way. I knocked on the door. "Hey, buddy, you alright in there?" The house was silent. "Mitchell," I kept my voice calm and kind. "It's just Daddy. Are you okay?" I felt my voice shake just a bit, but took a breath to recompose. I tried not to look at the floor. "Daddy," Mitchell said, his voice muffled through the door. "Mommy's scared." Confused, I put my ear on the door and listened closer. "What, bud?" "I know she is." I opened my mouth to talk, but Mitchell's voice interrupted me. "Mommy's scared. Are you scared too?" His voice was full of humor. I could hear the smile in his words. I didn't know what to say. My hand was shaky as it twisted the doorknob, revealing his dark black room. The only light came from the window, just the white moonlight peeking through slants in the blinds. I could see Mitchell's silhouette. Something wasn't right. I quickly flipped the switch, illuminating the room and bathing it in light. Mitchell was sitting upright on his bed. He was cross-legged, his bloody hands were in fists, laying on his lap. His head was bent backwards, so far that the back of his skull was only inches from his spine. His bones crunched and popped as he raised his head back up and turned to look at me. I could barely breathe, my body engulfed in what I can only describe as pure terror. He just smiled at me. I knew I was frozen, my muscles not daring to move, but Mitchell didn't even blink. Instead, he lifted his closed fist and started to open it. Little, jagged pieces of fingernails fell to the floor with a plink. "Daddy," he said, cocking his head to the side, his tone mocking. It made my throat feel tight. "Are you scared?"